Hey, welcome to episode number 25 of the Go-To Physio podcast. In today's episode, we talk all about mastering the subject of assessment. I hope you enjoy the show. Hey, welcome to episode number 25 of the Go-To Physio podcast. And in today's episode, we're going to talk all about the subjective assessment and help you master the subjective assessment. So over the course of the next 12 weeks, I'm going to take you on a journey and give you some insights into what the 2020 mentorship class are going through at the moment. So this week we've started the 2020 class, full of excitement, full of energy, and some really good conversations coming into the Facebook forum. And I actually, as I'm recording this episode at the moment, I have the Facebook forum up in front of me. And this week, obviously, on the Monday, the therapists got access to Module 1's content. It takes about an hour to an hour and a half, short, sharp, to the point videos, so people can dip in and out and quickly get the clinical applications that they need and revise the parts that they want to go back over. So this week, what I've been doing is just adding little bits, little nuggets to help the therapists apply the content even quicker. And not only that, but Shane's also done a coaching call on the Tuesday, and also he's recapped the full module on the Friday to really pinpoint the bits that people need to master. So what I want to do in today's episode is just go through some of the key points that I've gone over this week to make sure that the therapists are really understanding the content, but not only that, actually able to apply it in the real world, because that's all that matters, is that you've got actionable content. So just looking through the forum, on Saturday, I posted some of my favorite cues on breathing, and not to focus too much on the diaphragm, but just some cues that I use on a day-to-day basis. And as I scroll through here, then on the Friday, I posted some stuff, just some tips to help therapists find the non-physical stressors. So that would be clues that the respiratory system is de-stressed, and we may need to look at that. And on the Thursday, I posted about something that's very important to do on just before the objective assessment, which is all about summarizing the patient story back to them, and that gives you 3 or 4 big positive things happen when you do that, and I've talked a lot about that in the group. But today's episode, I want to talk about in a little bit more detail are 3 key points. Okay, so subjective assessment, the first thing you think about when you think about subjective assessment is the questions I'm going to ask. Well, the very first post, or the supplementary post that I put into the Facebook group to help the therapist, I'm going to read it out to you in full here, is something that's not about the asking questions, okay, even though in the module 1 we focus a lot on asking higher level questions, because the higher the level of the question, the higher quality answer you'll get back. And by quality answers, I mean information that's going to help you make sense of that patient's story, make sense of their current situation, make sense of their presumably current pain experience that they're in. But the post that I put out was actually, it has subjective assessment, semicolon, listening is a combination of hearing what the other person says and involvement in what he or she says. Okay, so this post is all about actually listening to the patient. And again, if you've seen any of our case studies from patients, there's one particular guy who had 7+ years of back pain, seen 3 or 4 surgeons, numerous therapists, and the first thing he said in the case study was Dave was the first person that actually listened to me. Okay, now I'd done this subconsciously, but obviously when you're teaching it, then you're looking, and there's some great stuff here that I've picked up from various sources. And listening I'm just going to repeat it again. It's a combination of hearing what the other person says and involvement in what he or she says. So even though they're talking, you've got involvement in that, okay? Now, Robert Bolton, he's an author, and sorry, it's gone off the top of my head. I can't remember the book he's written. It's a decent book. I'm sure if you type in Robert Bolton, in fact, I can do it because I've got it. If you type in Robert Bolton listening skills, you'll see it. And his book's called People Skills: How to Assert Yourself. So back to the point, he divides listening skills into 3 clusters. So there's attending skills, okay, so you being attentive, your body language, your eye contact, and your overall reassurance the listener is psychologically present. Okay, so when the patient's talking to us, we need to have good body language, making eye contact, and ultimately giving the patient reassurance that you're listening to them. Okay, so again, if you take it back to what we may have done previously, which is let's just blurt out a lot of questions to the patient, and we're just literally trying to get through the subjective assessment as quickly as possible so we can get on to the objective assessment. What's that telling the patient subconsciously? What's it telling them consciously? Okay, so I think there's a lot of value in that first point there about being attentive. Okay, body language, eye contact, and overall reassurance. The next skill he talks about is following skills. Okay, so he says door openers, encourages such as or open questions, and this is a massive one, attentive silences. Okay, attentive silence such as not trying to fill every single sentence, every single silence out of nervousness, but letting the speaker have some time to add further thoughts. Okay, I think that's so important. As therapists, we're so uncomfortable with silence. Okay, now if there's silence, if you ask the patient a question and there's silence, that is gold, because that means they're actually thinking. Okay, so they've processed the question you've asked them and they're thinking to give you a higher quality answer. Okay, now I've been guilty of it. Hands up. I'll put my hand up. I've been guilty of this. Is when a patient asks a question before and they may go silent, I'm thinking, oh my God, come on, I've got half an hour here for this session, I need to get them on with it. And then you almost try to prompt or preempt an answer maybe, or you give them examples of stuff, okay? Whereas what he's saying here is being comfortable with the silence, okay? And I think especially the more persistent pain cases, this stuff's even more important, okay, that we give them time to think. Okay, so encouraging them following skills such as okay, just making that sound that you're listening, you understand, that's very important. And then the attentive silences. Hey, I hope you're enjoying today's show. For more clinical content and tips to help you implement this content in the real world, please visit thegotofysio.com for more information, including my 6-step patient adherence checklist, which you can download for free. And also there's more blog content that helps you implement this stuff in the real world. You'll also find links to my YouTube show, The Go-To Physio Show, as well as lots of more information to help you become the go-to therapist, helping real patients get real results in the real world. And then this is the bit, reflecting skills. This is the final bit that I'm going to talk about today. This is the bit then that I went into even deeper the following day with another post like this one that I'm reading out to you to help the therapist apply this even quicker. And that's reflecting skills. Okay, so paraphrasing, reflecting, okay, summative reflections, all making sure you understand each other while communicating, okay, understanding and acceptance. Okay, so again, that summary, okay, or that paraphrasing of what the patient's just said to you, there's a lot of good things that happen there. Okay, and again, as I said, I actually went into that in massive detail. There's a lot of good things that's happening for you as a therapist by reflecting, paraphrasing and summarizing, and there's also a lot of good things happening for the patient as well. Okay, so I think that's something that's very, very important to do as well. At the end of the subjective assessment is having the ability to paraphrase back what you've been told, and also or summarize what you've just been told. Okay, and as I said, there's a lot of positives happen for you. There's a lot of positives happen for the patient just by doing that. Okay, and again, that's a little bit outside the scope of this episode. So the big thing is a clarity of understanding is fundamental for anyone striving for effectiveness. Okay, so again, we need the patient to be clear that we understand them. Okay, that's going to be massive for them to trust us, to like us, but subconsciously, I suppose, if you want to say that. But also, it's giving us massive clarity. If you can paraphrase, and just to get, again, I'm kind of going back towards what I was talking about the next day, and I'll talk more from the therapist point of view. If you can paraphrase and repeat back what the patient's told you in the story, then you're very, very clear on their subjective assessment injury history. You're very clear on that patient's story. If you can paraphrase that back to them, then that gives you a lot of clarity, and it also gives the patient a lot of clarity. Okay, so that's something to think about this week and reflect on. This is what I've written the Facebook group, and this will be massive in helping build a know, like, and trust, which will have impacts on the coming sessions with your patient. Okay, so very, very simple kind of add-on or nugget to help the therapists going through the mentorship content now. They've gone through module 1 this week. They're literally, as I record this episode on a Monday, they're literally just had access to module 2, which I'll talk about next week. That module's a little bit more meatier, so there's quite a bit to cover in that. So that'll be a little bit of a longer episode, but hopefully that helps. And ironically, the subjective assessment, asking all these questions, the first post that I put out was actually to help the therapists gain the information or gain the rewards of asking those questions. Okay, so now they're learning to ask higher quality questions. We're helping them with some questions that are going to elicit good information, but now what we need to do is we need to help them listen. Okay, so it's really, really interesting. And again, you have to look at the person first, pain second, and I think once you can do that, you'll take your confidence, your clarity to a whole new level. Your relationship with patients will change, and I think you'll be pleasantly surprised with the buy-in and the adherence that patients start to elicit. So that's it for this week. If you want to know any more information, there'll be also clips of module 1 that Shane, the head coach in the mentorship, my head physio in the clinic, will be putting out this week, also from some of the question and answers that were asked in the group as well. So if you want to have a look at that or any of the other resources that we have in the Go-To Physio site, the website is www.thegotophysio.com. And then you'll find the blog there where you'll see all the Q&As. I'm just about to release a brand new PDF as well. That's going to be coming out in the next few weeks. Just on the back of my Therapy Expo presentation, I'm going to have a brand new PDF that you can download, looking more into the role of the diaphragm and pelvic floor into musculoskeletal conditions. So you get a really nice summary of that. You get a lot of the literature all in one PDF. So make sure, if you're listening to this episode the week that's come out, then keep an eye out for it. It's coming out in the next few weeks. Or if you listen to this episode after the first week of February, then make sure you head over to www.thegotophysio.com and you'll find the download PDF there with all the resources. And that's on the subject of the diaphragm and pelvic floor. That's something that I was talking about on the Thursday or Friday when I was helping the therapists spot signs of respiratory sensitization patients that are having a little bit of respiratory distress, and that is everywhere, day in, day out in private practice with therapists, and we need to have the skill set to spot that. We need to have the skill set to desensitize it, just like we need to desensitize pain experience. And I would argue that it goes hand in hand anyways, and even some therapists will be doing that in some regards with pain science education. with other things that they do as well. Okay, so keep an eye out for that. That's coming very soon as well. So head over to www.thegotophysio.com and I'll see you over there with even more content. I hope you enjoyed today's show, and I'll see you next week when we dive deeper into Module 2 and we look at some of the clinical application nuggets that I will be talking about in Module 2 this week. Hey, I hope you enjoyed today's show. For more information, please visit www.thegotophysio.com, where you can download my 6-step patient adherence checklist absolutely free, as well as read the accompanying blog that goes with today's episode. We've got lots of cheat sheets and clinical content to help you implement to get real world results with real patients that ultimately helps you become the go-to therapist and allows you to build a profitable, busy private practice or become that go-to therapist in professional sport. I'll speak to you soon on the next episode.